Let's start with a really uncomfortable idea. What if everything we think we know about privacy is wrong? What if it's not actually protecting us, but instead it's creating the perfect hiding spots for criminals? Today, we're diving into a pretty radical vision for public safety, one that says our current systems have completely failed, and the only way forward is to rethink who watches the watchers. And to really get to the heart of this, we have to start with a case that, tragically, shows the deadly cost of the way we do things now. It's a story of systemic failure, where society's blind spots allowed a killer to just walk free for years. So, back in July 2016, a 17-year-old named Emilie Meng says goodbye to her friends at a train station, and then she just vanishes. Months later, her body is found. The case goes completely cold for almost 7 years. It was only in 2023 that a suspect was caught, and that only happened because he'd attacked someone else. A 7-year gap. You have to ask, how? Why did that happen? Well, according to the source material we're looking at today, the answer is just painfully simple. The police investigation hit a brick wall. Why? Because there was basically no useful surveillance footage. It was either totally non-existent or just useless. So the argument here is a tough one. A murderer was free to harm another child, because our collective demand for privacy created the very shadows he needed to hide in. Okay, so if that's the case, why is there such a huge pushback against more surveillance, especially when it could help solve crimes like this one? Let's dig into what's called the privacy defense, and the very sharp critique of it from our source. So the argument boils the opposition down to basically 3 possibilities. 1, you're doing something illegal or shady that you don't want seen. 2, you've been convinced by some pretty powerful people or groups who, frankly, need those blind spots to operate. Or 3, and this is a big one a lot of people can get behind, you just don't trust the government. But then the source poses a question. If you don't trust them, is the right answer really to blindfold the entire system? And this is where the whole argument gets really, really provocative. It suggests that this public debate we have about privacy, it isn't what it seems, that it's actually a kind of carefully constructed hypocrisy designed to protect the powerful, not everyday people. So take a look at this. This slide really breaks down the alleged disconnect. The claim is, when powerful groups are shouting privacy, what they really mean is they want a one-way street. They get to watch you, but nobody gets to watch them. Civil liberties becomes a kind of code for keeping their own power unchecked. This view completely reframes the whole debate. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, we're not the ones who are actually benefiting from these so-called protections. So if the current system is so broken, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to the core proposal from our source material today. It's a total reimagining of what surveillance could be. They call it the Aridian Vision. The main idea here is something called two-way surveillance. Now, this isn't about giving one group, like the government, even more power. It's about creating mutual accountability. In this proposed system, everyone, and that means regular citizens and people in authority, is monitored by what's described as an incorruptible AI. The whole point is to create total, two-way transparency. Okay, so that sounds interesting in theory, right? An incorruptible watcher. But how would that actually work in the real world? How would an AI really function in those high-stakes situations where people are at their most vulnerable? Let's take a psychiatric ward, for example. The source argues that patient privacy is often used to create these zones where there's just no accountability. In the Aridian Vision, an AI is watching the room, analyzing for patterns. If it sees a patient trying to self-harm, it alerts the staff. But, and this is the crucial part, if it sees a staff member using unauthorized force or medication, the AI flags that, instantly locks the data logs, and sends it all to an independent oversight board. Suddenly, the watcher is now being watched. Now let's take that same idea to the street. Let's go back to a situation like Emilie Meng's. So there are high-res cameras everywhere. If an AI detects a struggle, an abduction, it flags it immediately. It logs vehicle data, it alerts the police, all in real time, with no human bias or delay. But here's that two-way accountability again. That very same AI also logs every action of the responding police officers. It's watching for any abuse of power. So it protects you from the criminal, and it protects you from potential overreach by the state. So we've looked at the failures of our current system, and we've explored this radical new vision. What's the final takeaway? What's the ultimate argument being made here? Well, it's a fundamental challenge to one of our most deeply held modern beliefs. The final verdict from this source is that our idea of privacy has been totally twisted. That it's no longer a shield for the innocent, but it's become a shield for the guilty.
I mean, that is a powerful, very unsettling claim, and it really forces us to ask, who does our current system really protect?
And that leaves us with this final, incredibly challenging question. To create a world where a teenager can get home safely from a train station, a world where the most vulnerable people are actually protected from their caregivers, do we have to give up on our old ideas of privacy? Is a world where everyone is watched by something truly impartial the only way to make sure that everyone is truly safe?